Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Gilda Evans, bringing you the Autism Resource Podcast. This podcast and the ARP website are your one stop knowledge and resource space for autism and much more. I'm very happy to have Judi Uttal and Dr. Sasha Zeedyk join me as my guests today. Judi is president of the Orange County Asperger Support Group, a nonprofit organization improving the quality of life for individuals and families dealing with high functioning autism. She is a member of several organizations, all working to support the neurodiverse community. In 2022, Judi founded the Autism and Entertainment Workgroup to help support inclusion in the entertainment industry. She is the mother of a 33-year-old son who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. Sasha is an associate professor at California State University in Fullerton. Her research is mainly focused on the social and behavior skills of youth with autism spectrum disorders and intellectual disabilities across the course of development. She is interested in understanding how behavior problems and social skills relate to social, mental health, and academic outcomes for these youth, as well as how these skills impact their parents' psychological well-being. Recently, she has begun to study postsecondary outcomes for youth with ASD who attend college. Welcome to you both, and thanks so much for taking the time to join me and discuss the work that you do.
Thanks, Gilda. It's nice to be here.
Thanks for having us.
So today we're going to begin by discussing an organization that I believe is near and dear to both of you, namely the Toastmasters organization, and how it is making connection with the autism community. Judi, I'm going to start with you. Please tell me how you came up with the idea of using Toastmasters in conjunction with people with autism.
Thank you again, Gilda, for having me. Let me take a step first and explain what Toastmaster is. Toastmasters is an organization that's been around for 100 years, and it was set up to help individuals improve their public speaking and leadership skills. It was actually founded where I live in Orange County, but it's a worldwide organization, and it basically sets up small groups that have weekly or every 2-week meetings where people work on their public speaking skills. I became familiar with Toastmasters through a friend in 2012 or so, had started a Toastmasters club at my work to help my team improve their communication skills, and it expanded to the whole company that I was employed at. Around that same time, my son Josh was getting ready to go to college, and during that time, I went around and was looking for different programs and different things that would help prepare him for college. And one of the things I learned about was a program through UCLA called Peers. Peers is a social skills program, and at that time, it was in a pilot mode for their adult program. So we would be driving to LA from Orange County, which could take anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, depending on when you left. And during those sessions, they were encouraging us to have our child join clubs. And it was during one of these drives where I was thinking about joining clubs, and I thought, what better club for someone on the spectrum to join than a Toastmasters club? And the reason I thought that was that Toastmasters were everywhere. Toastmasters focuses on a lot of the deficits that our young people have in terms of communication skills and social skills, and it does it in a very supportive environment. So I thought, wow, that would really be a good club for people to join. And so that's where the inspiration for me came from.
Now, you mentioned off camera, so to speak, off mic, you mentioned something called the Gavel Club to me. What is that? And can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. There are different delivery mechanisms for Toastmasters. I did something called a Speechcraft, which was a workshop format that is a limited period of time, could be 8 weeks, could be 10 weeks. You have 2-hour meetings in that format. There's a normal Toastmasters club where there could be open or it could be private, could be related to a company. And then there's a type of Toastmasters club called a gavel club. In general, Toastmasters is set up for neurotypical adults, but a gavel club is a realization that, hey, not everybody wants to form a club that fits into the standard mold. And so when I formed an organization for the Orange County Asperger Support Group, I chose to do it as a gavel club. A gavel club has different pricing and is structured differently, but it's basically for individuals who would not typically join in standard Toastmasters club.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit about how someone would join a Toastmasters club? And also, can you tell me about one or two success stories? And you say
Sure.
Toastmasters is everywhere. So are there these gavel clubs for neurodivergent individuals in more places than just where you are?
Okay, so there's a lot of different questions here.
Yeah.
Let me start off by telling a few stories and then we'll talk about the accessibility. So I've been doing this now for 13 years and I've met a lot of different individuals on the spectrum, and it always has an impact that helps people on their journey. And everybody starts in a different place and gets to a different place. One of the people that I've known since the very beginning is Lauren. When Lauren got started, she had a very hard time communicating. You could not unravel what she was saying. She'd talk about her cats and this and that, and it was really hard. She's been involved in the 13 years that I've been involved. And she's working, she's in college, and she's now able to give these amazing speeches that she puts together herself on all sorts of different topics. It's really helped her organize her thinking and speaking. There's one young man, Martin, who's been involved for over 10 years. When Martin joined our club, it wasn't that he couldn't speak, it was that he was really depressed. He had been bullied a lot in school, lost his mother to cancer, and was fairly depressed. And so a lot of his initial speeches were about the things that were sad in his life. And I remember it was Lauren's mother, Kim, who was helping us evaluate speeches, who told Martin, say, hey, talk things that you enjoy. And that was a major shift for him because then he started talking about video games and anime and action heroes and all sorts of different things that he was interested in, and started giving these wonderful speeches. And he started making friends with other people in the club. For him, what you saw is someone transform and become happy and connected to the community and confident, seeing that kind of transition. There have been people who could barely speak who are now giving 10-minute presentations, and it's hard to shut them up. Each person, where they start and where they go, it is really personal, and it really is about how they choose to connect. Now, how does someone join a Toastmasters club? Sasha will talk a little bit about the different people she used in her research, but not everyone joins my Gavel Club. I've been speaking about this for over a dozen years and given lots of talks, and I've met a lot of people on the spectrum who participated in Toastmasters through the standard clubs. And it's extremely easy. You just go on the Toastmasters website, you put your zip code or city, and it'll give you a list of all the Toastmasters club that meet in your general area. You can then go to these clubs. They love guests, and find the club that connects to you, that you find the right people, because every club is different. There are cooking clubs, wine tasting clubs, there are clubs that are more controversial. You need to find where the chemistry is there. So it's very easy to find a Toastmasters club. And as I mentioned, they're all over the world. The Gavel Club is unique. The Gavel Club is something I started. I've encouraged other people to start them. I know that there's one for the Special Olympics here in Southern California, but not too many people have started the Gavel Club. We do it over Zoom. When we first got started, we did it in person. And then with COVID, we started doing it over Zoom. And we now have people from Florida and Texas and all over the US participate. I'll mention one other group, which is the Neurodivergent Leadership Toastmasters group, which I co-founded with Jenny Liu. That's been meeting for over 2 years. And that's a club specifically for neurodivergent folks. It meets over Zoom, and they have people from all over the world participate. That kind of gives you a sense of the different clubs and the different ways you can join.
Thanks, Judi. Sasha, let's move to you. Tell me how you connected with Judi and why you decided to do the research you're involved in right now.
I was connected with Judi, actually met one of my colleagues from Cal State Fullerton at a conference. She was looking for a researcher to work on something else through the Orange County Asperger support group. I met with Judi on Zoom. I think this is COVID days where we weren't meeting in person. And she's telling me about all the things that they do at OCASG. And I said, wait, you have a public speaking group for people on the spectrum. Okay, I'm really curious about that. I said, can I come to one of the meetings and just see? That sounds interesting. And I just can't imagine adults on the spectrum liking this, like a place where you have to go and do public speeches. I went to a meeting and I was just blown away. The quality of these speeches and just the level of support and excitement between the members and the mentors who help out. There's some people from like Toastmasters clubs, there's some parents who are there helping, giving evaluations to the speakers. And I just thought, this is amazing. And everybody seems so happy to be there on a Saturday. So I said to Judi, I know you want me to work on this other project, but I love this Toastmasters thing. Has anybody actually ever researched this? So I work with Dr. Yasmin Valorian, who is at UCLA. She's the director of outreach and dissemination at the UCLA Tarshan Center. And we worked on some other projects together. So I said, I'm going to tell my colleague to come to another meeting. I said, hey, go to this meeting. So she went to a different one. She also thought the same thing that I thought, that this was an amazing kind of hidden gem. We have all these sorts of interventions for autistic people and not very many for autistic adults. This is more of a naturalistic way to help with communication skills. Everybody wants to be there and they get to talk about what they want to talk about too. So that's the cool thing about Toastmasters that Judi hasn't really mentioned is there are these like skills that we practice, or she's mentioned it a bit, like some of the topics people talk about. But one of the cool things I thought observing the meetings was, okay, we might be working on gestures, but I think the first meeting I went to, somebody talked about like, it was a persuasive speech on selling printers, and he was convincing us the best type of printer, and he knew every detail about the printer, but it was like, okay, this is cool because he gets to pick what he wants to talk about. So anyway, because we were both blown away, we said, Judi, we want to research this, and if we write a grant and get the grant, would you be open to it? So we did. We wrote a grant, and we got a grant through the Organization for Autism Research. It's a 2-year applied research grant where we could study Toastmasters. And so we observed, I think, 9 months of the Gavel Club meetings. I'll get more into the whole study when you ask me more questions, but basically that's how it started.
Next question. Tell me about the study. Tell me about its findings.
Okay, perfect. We decided to break the study into a couple phases. So we did start by observing the Gavel Club, and then the first phase of the study was to interview current members of Toastmasters. So that was people in Judi's Gavel Club and other autistic people from other clubs. Some people in her group are in multiple clubs as well. We started out with these interviews of people who were already involved. And from that, we were trying to gather information that could inform the second phase of the study, which was to do Toastmasters with people who have never been involved before. So during phase 1, we interviewed 22 members of either the Gavel Club or other Toastmasters club, and then 11 mentors and caregivers of people in clubs. We learned a lot of things. Of course, we saw improvements in public speaking skills and confidence, but there were some things that came out in our qualitative themes from the interviews, feeling a sense of community with other autistic people, making friendships, and not just, oh, I meet people in my club, but actually people were talking about, I met my best friend in Toastmasters. We go camping together, or we do these things on the weekends. True friendships are formed in these clubs. A lot of people talked about improvements in mental health, how the support of the people they met in Toastmasters really helped, sometimes even more than traditional therapies, which was pretty cool. They talked about improvements to social communication skills. So not just I can public speak, but I understand those nuances that autistic people have trouble with, figures of speech or using gestures, things that might be uncomfortable. They talked about mentorship, leadership opportunities, and things like that. We also gathered things that they thought could be improved or ways that Toastmasters might be adapted a bit to help autistic people specifically. And we took the things that we learned and we said, okay, how can we do this again? Like Judi said, she started with something called the Speechcraft, and a Speechcraft is a shortened sort of 10-ish weeks program where it's like an introduction to Toastmasters, and each week is learning a new skill and then applying that skill to speeches. And then the hope, I mean, and you could see the success of Judi doing this for 13 years, is that people from the Speechcraft then join a club and continue to work on these skills. So what we did is we took two groups of people. We had a group that gets the Toastmasters and then a comparison group. We did what's called a waitlist control trial. The second group is on the waitlist and they did it second. We compared the people who got it in the first group to the people who were not getting anything at the time. And so over 10 weeks, autistic people who have never been part of Toastmasters before. Judi led the groups because she had a lot of experience through her group doing so. And we also had some mentors. Some of them were autistic Toastmasters and some were Toastmasters who wanted to be a part of this project. Every autistic person was paired with a mentor. And we measured changes in communication, leadership skills, loneliness, and anxiety. In that second phase, we found improvements in public speaking, which we were hopeful for, but we also found some trending levels. So these weren't statistically significant, but again, over 10 weeks and with a small group, it's really hard to find statistical significant findings, but really close to being statistically significant findings in improvements in leadership, decreases in loneliness, decreases in anxiety. And then we also did some exit interviews and people talked about one of the really big things that came out, just having this sense of community with other autistic people, right? I liked being with other people who thought about things the way I thought about, or I don't really get an opportunity to interact with other autistic people in this way. And it was really nice. We all had similar interests and to get to know people. And a lot of the speeches in this second phase of the study, a lot of the things people chose to speak about was experiences being autistic and how those impacted their life. And I wish we could have recorded the speeches people gave because they were just so amazing, but we have, because of research confidentiality, the way that we set up the study, we couldn't do that. But I remember this one participant speech about masking and having to hide autistic symptoms and traits and how that really impacted him. And he had a master's degree, just a brilliant young man. It was just such an amazing speech and such an amazing thing to hear directly from an autistic person. We are really excited and have submitted the results from the first phase to a journal. It's under peer review, and we're working on writing up the findings for the second phase of the study. And then the final thing I didn't mention is through the whole project, we had autistic and some stakeholder partners helping us guide the research. So we had Judi, obviously, because she's the one who got us involved and was leading the groups. But we also had a couple autistic members of the Gavel Club, one advisor or partner who is in the Gavel Club and also other Toastmasters clubs. And then Jenny, who Judi mentioned, who's the co-founder of the neurodivergent Toastmasters leadership group, and then one parent of an autistic Toastmaster. So those were our advisors through the process, helping us go over our interview protocols. And these are the measurements that we're going to use. And what should we do in the Speechcraft? What do you guys think? It was really helpful to have those stakeholders give us input throughout the process of the research. I could go on and on, but I know I just talked for a long time.
But it sounds like the benefits the participants achieved and realized by going through this were quite profound and diverse, far beyond what might have been initially expected. I think that's a wonderful statement in terms of the value of this participation and what happened as they went through this process. Judi, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to say a couple of things. One is Sasha and Yaz really did such a beautiful job in organizing this research and how they interacted with the individuals involved and the inclusion of them in shaping and analyzing the research. So I wanted to say that. But I also wanted to say that I had been speaking about this. And one thing about the importance of the work that Sasha and Yaz did is that I anecdotally knew that this was beneficial. But once this research is published, then the world will know in a way that therapists and academia can then tell people that this is a way of helping adults deal with their autism as adults. Because as we know, after the age of 18, there really isn't a lot out there, and the therapies that are available can be expensive, and there could be long wait lists, etc. And this is something that everybody could do just by going to a website and paying less than $100 and something a year to be part of a club. So it's so obtainable, and it really can change people's lives.
Absolutely. It'll be very important when this information does get out there and make people aware of this wonderful resource. I want to thank both of you for your time and for sharing your stories with us today.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you so much.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast. You can find it on Apple iTunes, Amazon Music, Spotify, and other popular platforms. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you would like more information on this topic or anything else we've covered on the Autism Resource Podcast, visit us online at autismresourceproject.org/podcast. If you have a topic you'd like us to cover in the future, contact us through the website or comment on any of our social media channels. And be sure to check out our growing website often, since we are continually adding useful information and resources. I want to thank our listeners for spending part of their day with us. This is the Autism Resource Podcast, and I'm Gilda Evans, reminding you to take care of yourself and that special person in your life.